Bien, mesdames, messieurs, bonjour. Bienvenue ici en salle de presse de manière virtuelle pour notre rendez-vous quotidien. Nous entrons dans la 3e semaine de confinement et je voudrais vous souhaiter à toutes et à tous de rester en bonne santé et de garder l'espoir que tout ceci sera bientôt derrière nous et en attendant, continuons tous à respecter les consignes officielles pour limiter l'expansion du virus. Comme chaque jour, nous avons une série d'annonces à vous faire et je commencerai aujourd'hui avec les dernières nouvelles en matière de rapatriement. Donc, comme vous le savez, l'Union européenne a œuvré et continue d'œuvrer au rapatriement des citoyens européens. Par le biais du mécanisme de protection civile de l'UE, nous avons maintenant facilité le rapatriement de plus de 4300, quasiment 4400 citoyens européens vers l'Europe depuis de nombreux pays dont vous trouverez la liste complète dans le Daily News d'aujourd'hui. Il y a encore près de 100 vols prévus dans les prochains jours et pour rappel, ce sont environ 250 000 personnes qui ont déjà été rapatriées grâce aux vols organisés par les États membres, très souvent avec le soutien des délégations de l'Union européenne dans les pays tiers. J'appelle maintenant Anna pour une annonce concernant notre soutien aux pays des Balkans occidentaux et aux pays voisins, aux pays du voisinage de l'Est.
Merci beaucoup. So, as part of the global response to the coronavirus outbreak, the European Commission is very happy to announce that it is mobilizing support for the Western Balkans and also for our Eastern partners. We are mobilizing up to 38 million euros in immediate support for the Western Balkans to tackle the health emergency by supporting the supply of medical devices and personal equipment such as ventilators, laboratory kits, masks, goggles, gowns, and safety suits. We are also redirecting 374 million euros to help the socio-economic recovery of the region. This will include, in particular, support for the private sector, increasing social protection with a specific attention to vulnerable groups, and strengthening resilience in the health sector. In the case of our Eastern partners, the Commission is also reallocating 140 million euros for the most immediate needs in Armenia, Azerbaijan, Belarus, Georgia, the Republic of Moldova, and Ukraine, and it will redirect the use of existing instruments worth up to 700 million euros to help mitigate the socio-economic impact of the coronavirus crisis in these countries.
Ok, thank you very much, Anna. Maintenant, j'appelle Sonia pour une annonce concernant la production d'équipements de protection.
Good afternoon. The Commission is doing a lot of actions in order to respond to the coronavirus epidemic, and in this context we are working very closely with the industry in order to help them ramp up personal protection equipment and other medical supplies. For this purpose, today the Commission issues 3 sets of guidelines to assist manufacturers in their efforts, and this guidance concerns personal protective equipment, leave-on hand cleansers and hand disinfectants, and also 3D products for the use of medical purposes. In particular, the guidance on the producing of protective equipment offers manufacturers advice on how to place their products on the EU market. The second document, the second guidance on the hydroalcoholic gel intends to provide clarification on the applicable legal framework within the European Union for the placing of those products on the European market, and also what kind of claims could be given to users. The third set of guidance published today focuses on the conformity assessment procedures for 3D printing and 3D products which are to be used for medical purposes. These documents are available on the website of the Directorate General for Internal Market, Entrepreneurship, SMEs and Industry, DG GROW, and a press release with links to those documents is available on the Commission Press Corner. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sonia. We really count on everybody's help to publicize these guidelines as much as possible, because they play an important role in helping us guide companies in our efforts and in their efforts to fight the crisis. Merci. J'appelle maintenant Martha pour une annonce concernant 2 documents publiés par la Commission contenant des orientations pratiques concernant les travailleurs transfrontaliers, les travailleurs et les frontières.
Oui, merci. Effectivement, la Commission a publié aujourd'hui 2 ensembles d'orientations. Tout d'abord, la Commission a publié aujourd'hui des orientations pratiques pour assurer la libre circulation des travailleurs critiques. Elles identifient les travailleurs exerçant des professions critiques, en particulier pour lutter contre l'épidémie du coronavirus, pour laquelle la libre circulation continue dans l'Union européenne est donc essentielle. Il s'agit notamment des professionnels de la santé, des travailleurs auprès des enfants et des personnes âgées, des scientifiques, des techniciens en dispositifs médicaux ou encore des personnes travaillant dans le secteur alimentaire. Cette liste n'est pas exhaustive, bien évidemment. Des travailleurs saisonniers dans l'agriculture remplissant dans certaines circonstances des fonctions essentielles de récolte, de plantation ou d'entretien, et donc dans ces circonstances devraient être traités également comme des travailleurs critiques. Les orientations précisent également que les États membres devraient autoriser les travailleurs frontaliers, en général, à continuer de traverser les frontières si le travail dans le secteur concerné est toujours autorisé dans l'État membre d'accueil. Ensuite, la Commission a également publié des orientations pratiques pour mettre en œuvre la restriction temporaire concernant les voyages non essentiels à la destination de l'Union européenne, faisant suite aux demandes formulées par les membres du Conseil européen le 26 mars. Ces orientations visent à aider les gardes-frontières et les autorités chargées des visas en fournissant des conseils sur la mise en œuvre de la restriction temporaire à la frontière, sur la facilitation de transit pour le rapatriement des citoyens de l'Union européenne et sur les questions relatives au visa. Elle traite de questions pratiques soulevées par les États membres lors des vidéoconférences bi-hebdomadaires des ministres de l'Intérieur et les réunions techniques des États membres. Et sur ce dernier point, Adalbert sera votre point de contact. 2 communiqués de presse sont également disponibles à ce sujet sur notre site. Merci.
Merci Martha. Le point absolument clé ici, c'est que nous avons toujours insisté, bien entendu, sur la nécessité pour les biens et notamment tout ce qui était matériel médical, tout ce qui était produits de protection ou équipements de protection, tout ce qui était produits pharmaceutiques, tout ce qui était composants pour permettre la production des équipements médicaux et de tous ces autres produits médicaux dont nous avons besoin de circuler dans l'Union européenne. La même chose, évidemment, pour tous les biens de consommation courante dont nous avons besoin dans notre vie quotidienne. Mais bien entendu, il faut aussi que les personnels médicaux, que les travailleurs transfrontaliers en général puissent passer les frontières et se rendre sur leur lieu de travail si nous voulons continuer à pouvoir faire fonctionner notre économie qui est la base évidemment de la lutte contre le coronavirus. J'appelle maintenant Stéphane sur les transports.
Good morning, everybody. Following the Commission's guidelines on green lanes to ensure free flow of goods on Europe's roads, and President von der Leyen's and Commissioner Vălean's calls to implement them as quickly as possible, we have indeed seen significant improvements over the weekend compared to the situation 1 week ago. We're in contact with the Member States, and according to the latest information that we have received, our recommendations from the Green Lanes communication are respected widely, and we indeed see during the weekend waiting times of less than 15 minutes at most EU borders. Now we're going to show you a map from the European Union provided to us by Sixfold, whom we thank for their courtesy to use this map. This is a map that shows the European Union with the borders. You see red dots, green dots indicating the situation. You see, for instance, Germany, France, only 10 minutes at the borders. When we go more to the east, we see between Germany and Austria, about 10 minutes. When we go even more to the east, situations which are problematic last week, 20 kilometers in the past, have now become 4 kilometers. And we see, for instance, the border between Hungary and Romania currently, which was 2 hours, was last week 20 kilometers. So this is a map that allows us to follow in real time the situation at the borders. And we see that some of the areas which were problematic last week have improved a lot. As I said, from 20 kilometers, 15 kilometers of traffic jams to traffic jams of 4 kilometers or less.
Thank you, Stéphane. So you can see that we are really trying to use all the tools available to track the situation on internal traffic within the EU. We have work of a more regulatory nature, if you wish, in the form of guidelines that we have been discussing with member states, that Stéphane has had the opportunity of presenting to you in the past, the green lanes, on the movement of workers, as Marta has just prepared, but we're also making sure that we are up to speed at all times on the real situation at member state borders, so that we can also take all the necessary bilateral contacts in order to make sure that the situation or improves again if there is any issue, based on the guidelines that we have sent. So now, today is Monday, the weekend is over, everybody has got to get back to work, not only us here, not only you in your offices, although I know that you never stop working. It's also the case for people who are studying. It's also the case for their teachers. And therefore, I'd like to call on Susanne, who's here with us today from her home, to present to us the resources that exist at European level for e-learning. Susanne.
Thank you very much. Yes, the Commission has published a web page presenting a wide range of online learning materials available at European level. With most schools, universities and other education and training sites closed at the moment, online learning materials help to continue education and training. The website includes very well-known portals like eTwinning and others, but also presents lots of material produced by Erasmus Plus projects during their work. And you see one in this tiny screen on the picture. The presented website and learning resources cover all education and training sectors. Commissioner for Innovation, Research, Culture, Education and Youth, Maria Gabriel, said, while the coronavirus crisis is causing disruption to education, training and mobility opportunities in the European Union and beyond, we must ensure that it does not hinder learning. And with this experience in mind, also the experience now lots of schools are making, universities are making and so on, the upcoming review of the Digital Education Action Plan this year will further support the development of online learning across Europe. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Susanne. Then last announcement from me today. We are seeing across Europe extraordinary marks of solidarity among member states, be it on the treatment of patients, be it on the repatriation of EU citizens stranded abroad, or protecting healthcare workers by sending protective equipment. So to provide an overview and honor these tokens of solidarity, we have prepared a fact sheet which you can see behind me and which you will find online as well. And we will, of course, continue to update this information as news develops and further examples become available. Now, with this, let me move to the questions that we received for today's midday briefing. We received, by the deadline of 11 o'clock, 25 questions. So I thank you for your continued interest in our midday briefing. We will start, une fois n'est pas coutume, with questions related to asylum, and I will call Adalbert to answer the question from Andrés Gil from eldiario.es. I would like to ask you about the right of asylum suspension in Greece, which is about to last for 1 month. What is your assessment of the situation, including any evidence of human rights violations? Do you have any guarantee from the Greek government to restore it? Why are you not launching an infringement procedure, etc.?
Thank you. A lot of different elements to this question. Firstly, our understanding regarding the situation in general at the Greek-Turkish border is that many people present on the Turkish side of the border have now returned into the inland back in Turkey. And generally speaking, the European Union remains in very strong support of Greece's efforts to manage the exceptional situation. This is also something that has been reiterated in the joint statement of the members of the European Council on Thursday. In this context, the Commission is delivering on our solidarity commitments to Greece, which is also demonstrated by the draft amending budget that we adopted last week. Now, regarding fundamental rights, our position remains, of course, that fundamental rights must continue to be respected. Any allegations of violations of fundamental rights must be investigated by the Greek authorities. And we remain in close contact with the Greek authorities in general to identify solutions that are appropriate in the current situation in full compliance with fundamental rights and with the European Union legal framework. Now, concerning the legislative act suspending the lodging of asylum applications, this is something that Commissioner Johansson addressed with the Greek authorities during her visit to Greece earlier this month. And our understanding now is that the law will expire on the 1st of April, and we are not aware of any decision by the Greek authorities to extend this law. And finally, regarding the letter that the question also referred to, we will of course reply to the letter as soon as possible. But meanwhile, we remain of the view that the situation on the islands needs to be addressed very urgently. And we are working very closely with the Greek authorities to assist them in managing the situation. This includes emergency measures to address or to prevent threats to public health, addressing the situation of the most vulnerable, including also through relocation of unaccompanied minors in the context of the initiative that we announced earlier this month and where we were expecting rapid developments, and other measures that are already being implemented.
Thank you very much, Adalbert. We will now take a question from Mose from the Brussels Times for Anna. Last week, the Council decided to open accession negotiations with Albania and North Macedonia. In both cases, the Commission is invited to submit a proposal for a framework for negotiations. The first intergovernmental conference should be convened as soon as possible after the adoption. However, prior to this conference, Albania has to implement a number of reform measures. Is the start of negotiations conditional on these measures? And does it mean that the negotiations will start first with North Macedonia? When does the Commission estimate that Albania will be ready?
Thank you so much for the question, Moshe. The Commission welcomes the EU leaders' endorsement to open accession talks with both Albania and North Macedonia. For us, this decision shows that the EU delivers on its promise, and it sends a loud and clear message to the Western Balkans that their future lies with the EU. As a next step, the Commission will prepare the negotiating frameworks for both countries. These negotiating frameworks will establish the guidelines and principles that will guide accession negotiations. The Commission expects reforms to continue in both countries. As you know, for Albania, the Council conclusions set requirements for the first intergovernmental conference to be able to take place, but work on all those areas is ongoing and well advanced. Given the current pace and level of commitment on reforms, the Commission is convinced that these conditions will be met soon. As to your question on whether it will be North Macedonia that will go first or Albania. As you know, the enlargement process is a firm, own merit-based process, and there's no specific dates so far that have been set for the first intergovernmental conference.
Okay, thank you very much, Anna. I now have a question from Odile Harvey. Now we come back to the coronavirus crisis. So, Odile, Radio Nord Bretagne. Afin de répondre aux nombreux appels à l'aide des autorités sanitaires nationales, la présidente de la Commission et les présidents du Conseil et du Parlement européen ne devraient-ils pas proposer et encourager les europarlementaires, les fonctionnaires et personnels divers ayant une compétence médicale à se mettre à disposition des services de santé de leur pays d'origine ou de résidence? Balázs.
Yes, bonjour. Donc évidemment, la Commission européenne, sur la base du principe de coopération loyale avec les États membres, examine avec la plus grande flexibilité possible et dans la limite des dispositions statutaires applicables les demandes des membres de son personnel qui souhaitent se porter volontaires dans leur pays d'accueil ou d'origine pour apporter leur soutien aux personnels médicaux nationaux. Il faut néanmoins aussi noter que les personnes avec un profil médical représentent une toute petite partie du personnel de la Commission.
Voilà, en ce qui concerne le Parlement européen et le Conseil, Odile, il faut adresser la question à ces organisations. Une autre question pour Balázs, cette fois-ci de Aminata de l'Agence Europe. Des progrès ont-ils été enregistrés dans les pourparlers avec les États membres volontaires pour héberger les stocks de la réserve d'équipements médicaux RescEU?
Oui, tout d'abord, je voudrais souligner que la réserve sera hébergée par un ou plusieurs États membres. Les États concernés seront chargés de l'acquisition de l'équipement. La Commission financera 100% de la réserve. Ensuite, ce sera pour le Centre de coordination des interventions d'urgence de gérer la distribution de l'équipement. Le budget initial de la réserve à ce stade s'élève à 80 millions d'euros. Nous sommes en négociation très avancée avec plusieurs États membres qui sont intéressés à héberger la réserve. Nous nous attendons à des développements rapides à cet égard dans les prochains jours.
D'accord, merci. Une autre question pour toi de Thomas Gutscher, Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung. On March 18, the Commission President announced following her call with Li Keqiang that China is ready to provide 200,000 N95 masks, 2 million surgical masks, etc., etc. When do you expect these items to arrive? To which country or countries will they be delivered?
Yes, what I can tell you is that we have been informed by the Chinese side that the supplies concerned will be ready for delivery in the coming days. At this point in time, transport arrangements are being made. And as President von der Leyen has announced, the supplies will be delivered to Italy.
Okay, there was a similar question from Aminata. So Aminata, that is the answer to your question as well on this. Now we move to a question on Brexit negotiations for Dan. In fact, two questions. From Jim, what are the expectations for today's meeting of the Joint Committee? And what are the timings, please? Also, is it legally possible for the EU to request an extension to the transition period if the UK refuses to do so?
Yep, thanks Eric, and thanks Jim for your question. Indeed, on the Joint Committee, that meeting will start later on this afternoon. There's an agenda for that available online. I would suggest staying in touch for the readout. It's just late afternoon, early evening for a readout on that one, but stay in touch with me on that. As for your question on extending the transition period, this is set out in Article 134 of the Withdrawal Agreement, which states that the Joint Committee may adopt a single decision extending the transition for up to 1 or 2 years. What this means in practice is that there would need to be a mutual EU-UK agreement to extend the transition.
Excellent, thank you. So you had a similar question from Lily Bayer from Politico, and one on the self-isolation of Mr. Johnson, Mr. Frost, and Mr. Barnier, and whether these impact the talks.
Yeah, absolutely. What I can say on that is that contacts are ongoing with the UK, between the UK and ourselves. This week, we will provide clarifications on our respective legal texts at technical level, and I can also confirm that Michel Barnier is, of course, in very close contact with all of his colleagues here in the Commission by telephone.
Okay, thank you very much. Before I move to the next questions, I would like to come back to the announcement which was made by Suzanne on the e-learning resources to point out that the website which she was mentioning is obviously available in all official languages, but the resources which are made available, which come from all over Europe, obviously are not necessarily available in all languages. It depends on where they are. But the central website, which allows you to navigate through these resources, is available in all official languages. Now, I would like to move to a series of 4 questions that we received this morning, which all deal with the multi-annual financial framework. They come from Matthias Schiffers from Finanzielle Dagblad, from Roland Ziegloff from DPA, from Marine Laouché from AFP, and from Esther Zalan from EU Observer. And the questions, which I'm not going to read out because it would take too long, but they deal with the announcement which was made in the statement on Saturday, which we issued, which President von der Leyen issued, on the fact that in the statement we mentioned ongoing work on the multi-annual financial framework, and therefore the questions relate both to the time frame for our new proposal, whether we have started working on this proposal, whether the size of our former proposal, which was 1.114% of GNI, is sufficient in view of the crisis we are facing, whether this new proposal would only deal with the recovery plan, but also, or whether it would also deal with other priorities such as the European Green Deal, and on whether the GDP base, which is the basis for our proposal, will be the proper basis for this MFF in view of the impact of the crisis on GDP, on the size of the economy overall. So what I can say to answer these questions is that, yes, obviously work has started. This work has started, in fact, it was already announced by President von der Leyen last week in her press conference following the European Council. You will remember that during this European Council, the President of the Commission and the President of the Council were tasked with making proposals for a recovery plan. The President of the Commission has very clearly said that she sees a strong multi-annual financial framework as a key plank of this recovery plan. Why? Because it is clear that one of the main issues that we need to address is the fact that we have a cohesive return to normal and exit from the crisis, also from an economic point of view, and that the multi-annual financial framework is an excellent tool in order to ensure this, because obviously it allows us to deploy investments straight across Europe. Now, on the detailed questions related to the exact time frame, the size of the budget that we will be proposing, on technical questions related to how the GDP base will influence the proposal, they're all extremely valid questions, but as you will understand, this is work which is in progress, and we will have to wait and see what is the proposal that the Commission will put on the table before we can answer those questions. I will say one thing, however, which is very important. The President herself has made abundantly clear, and I already said here in the press room last week, that we see the European Green Deal and we see digitalization as 2 central elements of any intelligent recovery and any intelligent investment. And therefore, there is no contradiction between trying to spur investment and spur expenditure to help us get out of the crisis, and following the policy priorities that were set out in the Commission's political guidelines, and in particular, the European Green Deal, digitalization, and an economy that works for the people. So this is on the issue of the MFF. There were also questions related to the announcements or the debates on how to get out of the crisis. I have a question from Silvia Martinez from El Periódico and another one from Nikolai Nielsen from the EU Observer. I will read them. President Ursula von der Leyen announced on Saturday that all the options are on the table. Does it mean that the European Commission is ready to study a common debt instrument? And given the time pressure, what is the EC timetable to present a new MFF? Sorry, that was linked to the previous question. And Nicola Nielsen, over the weekend, President von der Leyen described the Corona bonds in the German press as a slogan. I will stop right here. She used the German word Schlagwort. This has been interpreted by some as being a slogan, but what it actually means is a concept, a key word, and therefore it does not have in any way a negative connotation. It is a factual description. It's a name. This is what she was trying to say, and we need to see what are the mechanics, what is the reality behind this. The question continues. Why does the Commission reject the idea, and how does this position square with her earlier critical statements when it comes to lack of member state solidarity, etc., etc.? Now, we have issued a statement on Saturday, as Sylvia has pointed out, and this statement puts everything in context. What the President has very clearly said is, on the one hand, we know that there is a debate between member states, and that some member states have pointed to specific constraints that they face when discussing the issue of Eurobonds, Corona bonds, etc., etc. These constraints are there, and we cannot simply wish them away. They are part of the debate. As far as she is concerned, the central, most important element of this whole debate is to ensure that we have a cohesive response to the crisis, that we do not have a response that somehow would create a divide between member states based on their capacity to deal with the effects of the crisis. And that this is the basis on which he is working, which is why the multi-annual financial framework is such a central element of the recovery plan that we will be coming forward with. Apart from that, what we are saying is that all options are on the table. We need to have options which are both quick, effective, and based on a consensus among all the actors, and in particular the member states. This is the key to having a response that will be up to the challenges which the coronavirus crisis confronts us with. So this answers these questions. Then I have a question from Jean-Pierre Strobans from Le Monde. Jacques Delors a indiqué ce week-end que la crise du coronavirus menaçait de mort le projet européen si l'Union ne pouvait pas manifester davantage de solidarité. De nombreux autres commentaires vont dans le même sens et appellent la Commission à agir plus et plus vite pour vaincre les réticences de certains États membres. Cela suscite-t-il une réaction de la présidente ? Visiblement, l'énumération la semaine dernière des décisions déjà prises a été masquée par les polémiques et les non-décisions à l'issue du Conseil européen. Une action plus vigoureuse est-elle dès lors programmée? Et quelle est votre réponse à M. Delors et à d'autres? Merci pour cette question, Jean-Pierre. Je crois qu'on a déjà fourni un certain nombre d'éléments de réponse. Et ce qui est vrai, c'est que peut-être qu'un certain nombre d'éléments cruciaux sont un petit peu occultés dans le débat actuel. Il ne faut pas oublier, et Martha aura l'occasion peut-être de revenir là-dessus, que la Commission a pris déjà, ces 2 dernières semaines, plus de 42 décisions, décisions et orientations permettant d'aider les États membres à combattre les effets de la crise, et notamment dans le domaine macroéconomique, avec le déclenchement de la clause de sauvegarde générale du pacte de stabilité, qui permet aux États membres de prendre un certain nombre de mesures fiscales qui leur permettent de soutenir, par exemple, leur système sanitaire, notamment par la décision de mise en place d'un cadre temporaire de gestion des aides d'État, qui a permis aux États membres de nous notifier et à nous d'approuver dans des délais extrêmement courts déjà de très nombreux plans d'aide d'État des États membres qui vont bénéficier directement aux entreprises, directement aux travailleurs dans ces entreprises, et que ensemble, comme Mario Centeno a eu l'occasion de le dire dans ses déclarations, ces mesures fiscales représentent déjà 2% du PIB européen. Ces mesures au niveau des aides d'État représentent déjà 13% du PIB de l'Union européenne, et que d'autres plans pourront encore être présentés par les États membres que la Commission analysera dans les plus brefs délais, toujours en utilisant au maximum la flexibilité qui est disponible. Par ailleurs, la Commission elle-même, avec les moyens qui sont les siens, a mis sur la table toute une série de mesures en matière d'utilisation flexible du budget européen et notamment des fonds structurels, afin de permettre aux États membres d'immédiatement répondre aux effets de la crise, et notamment par le biais du Corona Response Investment Initiative, qui permet aux États membres de mobiliser 37 milliards d'euros pour répondre à la crise. Donc il y a eu une réaction immédiate des institutions de l'Union européenne, de la Commission, mais aussi des États membres, du Conseil et du Parlement pour approuver les propositions de la Commission, qui permettent aux États membres, à leurs autorités, à leurs gouvernements, à leurs administrations, de venir et d'apporter une aide immédiate aux entreprises, aux travailleurs, aux citoyens, au système de santé. Donc dire que nous n'agissons pas vite me semble un contresens. Ensuite, il est clair que nous devons préparer la suite. Et comme j'ai eu l'occasion de le dire vendredi, par le biais de quelques vers, et vous voudrez m'en excuser, ce chemin, nous devons le créer. En espagnol, caminante no hay camino, el camino se hace al andar. Ça veut dire quoi? Ça veut dire que chacun a sa vision du meilleur moyen de sortir de la crise et de retrouver le chemin d'une économie saine. Il faut que nous trouvions un consensus, car sans consensus, nous n'aurons pas une sortie de l'Union européenne qui soit cohérente et solidaire. Et il est normal qu'il y ait des débats, et nous devons prendre le temps du débat. Nous avons agi immédiatement pour donner aux États membres les moyens de faire face aux effets immédiats de la crise. Maintenant, nous devons travailler de manière intelligente et sur base du dialogue pour trouver la stratégie à moyen terme qui va nous permettre d'effacer le plus possible les effets de la crise. Et nous sommes dans une démocratie, il y a évidemment des débats, c'est normal, je trouve, qu'il y ait des débats, c'est sain qu'il y ait des débats, car c'est grâce aux débats que l'on peut analyser un problème sous toutes ses coutures. Et ce que j'ai envie de répondre, c'est que je ne comprends pas pourquoi nous doutons toujours de nous-mêmes. L'Union européenne a déjà fait face à énormément de crises dans son histoire récente et dans son histoire plus ancienne. Elle est toujours sortie par le haut de ces crises, et nous travaillons pour faire en sorte qu'elle sorte de nouveau par le haut de cette crise-ci, mais sur base de ces valeurs qui sont celles d'un ensemble de pays démocratiques qui ont l'habitude de discuter entre eux, de mettre les problèmes sur la table, de confronter les opinions différentes, finalement pour trouver une manière d'agir ensemble. Et c'est là-dessus que nous travaillons. Donc je suis persuadé que nous allons y parvenir. La présidente de la Commission européenne et toute son équipe jouent leur rôle dans ce débat. Ce rôle, c'est d'une part l'ensemble des mesures que nous prenons pour gérer la crise. Vous le voyez ici tous les jours. Et d'autre part, c'est maintenant la préparation du plan de relance. Voilà pour ces questions. Nous avons une question plus spécifique concernant la Hongrie. So we have a question from Sandor from Euronews concerning Hungary. And a comment from Prime Minister Orban on Friday saying that the European Union should not block Hungary in the protection against the virus. Is he right in saying that the EU does not help? Can you give me details, please, about what help Hungary gets and how? Well, I come back to the answer I have just given previously. Flexibilization of the macroeconomic framework allows Hungarian national authorities to take the measures they considered as being the most appropriate for the Hungarian people to fight the effects of the crisis. Secondly, let me remind you, as just one but very big example, that under the Corona Response Investment Initiative, Hungary will be able to mobilize 5.6 billion euros of funds in order to fund its health systems, fund the SMEs that require it, etc., etc. I would also say that we have been working extremely hard in order to ensure that goods and workers can continue to flow and to move across Europe to go to where they are most needed. And no single country, be it Hungary or any other member state, can hope to fight this crisis on its own. So all of the guidelines that we are applying, and which have been welcomed without exception by all the member states in last week's European Council, for example, on green lanes, on free movement of workers, etc., are there to help member states fight the effects of the crisis. So we are blocking no one from doing what it takes. We are, however, obviously vigilant across the board in all member states on the fact that we do this based on the standards that we have in the European Union in all policy areas. So then I have a question which is related. Apologies, I'm getting lost in all the questions I have. From Aminata, again, from Agence Europe. Ursula von der Leyen a annoncé que l'Union européenne était prête à organiser une conférence des donateurs pour un vaccin. Est-ce le seul but de cette conférence et sait-on déjà à quelle date elle se tiendrait? Thank you for the question, Aminata. What I can say is that this pledge, this announcement was made as in the context of the G20 teleconference which took place last week. The objective of this online donors conference will be indeed to finance the research on vaccines, but also, and this is very important, the deployment, once we have a vaccine, the deployment of this vaccine in particular in vulnerable regions of the world, making sure that it is both easily available and affordable. That is that will be the objective of this work stream. Okay, then I have a question from Lily from Politico, which goes, the automotive industry lobby groups have called for an urgent meeting with the Commission President. Has she accepted, and when will the teleconference be held, if so? Lily, I can acknowledge that we have received the letter, but we are looking into it, and for the moment I have no further information to provide on on this. Tommaso Galavotti from ADN Kronos also had a question related to the automotive industry in Germany, saying that the Center for Automotive Research at the Duisburg-Essen University is saying that the automotive industry in Germany is set to cut between 100,000 and 830,000 jobs in 2020 because of a falling demand and overcapacity. Whether we are going to discuss with the German authorities the need for a massive expansionary budgetary policy response to the crisis which is available in Europe. Tommaso, I think that I have answered this question more generally in my previous comments on the fact that the President of the Commission considers that indeed we need a recovery plan, we need an economic response to the crisis which works for the whole of Europe. Then I have a question from Jim Bronson from the FT on a related issue, which is for Marta. Marta, I think you're with us. Yes, you are with us here even. I'm getting lost in who's in the room and who's on who's on video. Good morning again. After last week's summit and President von der Leyen's comments over the weekend, what is the division of labor now between the Commission and the Eurogroup on designing a fiscal response to the crisis?
So thank you very much, Jim, for your question. So the division of work following the last European Council is very clear, and that was also confirmed in the statement that was issued by the President on Saturday. So the Eurogroup has been tasked by the leaders with presenting proposals to deliver a comprehensive response to the crisis within the next 2 weeks. The Commission will participate in those discussions, of course, and stands ready to assist if supported by the Eurogroup. In parallel, on the other hand, the President of the Commission, together with the President of the European Council, and in consultation with other institutions, especially the ECB, have been invited to prepare a comprehensive recovery plan on which work has started, as Eric already mentioned.
Thank you, Marta. We had a not completely related question, but which would still be for you, again from Tommaso, on, and I will summarize because the question was quite long, on the fact that the good state of the German healthcare system can be explained also by the crisis in the euro crisis in 2008, which would have led to savings in Germany in lower interest expenses in 2010, in the period between 2010 2020. What can we answer to that?
So on this question, what I can say is that the membership of the euro area has benefited all member states. So according to calculations by the European Commission, euro area governments have in fact made substantial savings when it comes to debt interest payments annually since the introduction of the euro. And this has allowed all national governments to actually redirect spending from debt interest payments towards more productive spending, and that includes, of course, the healthcare expenditure. Thank you.
Thank you. Then I have a question for Johannes, again from Lily from Politico. The Commission says it will only receive anonymized and aggregated data as part of its plan to use telco location data to map the spread of coronavirus. Why then does it refer to itself as a data controller when this is a concept reserved for personal data that can identify people? Techie question.
Thank you, Eric. Yeah, quite a techie question indeed. Yeah, no, as I had the chance to explain on Friday, the exact details of the initiative announced by Commissioner Breton are still being worked out, but to recall, the data from mobile phone operators will be aggregated and anonymized. The Commission decides on the purpose and means of processing, and that is to analyze mobility patterns, including the impact of confinement measures on the intensity of contacts, and hence the risk of contamination. And will, of course, ensure the respect of the Privacy Directive and the GDPR and the security of the data. And I think there you have the hint.
Okay. Since you're here, another question for you from Lajlo Arato from index.eu, sorry, index.hungary. How does the EU fight against coronavirus disinformation? Where does the fake news come from?
Thank you, Eric. Yes, no, we are aware of an increasing number of false information about the coronavirus pandemic. We are concerned that some of that might also lead to public harm. In this context, we are in close contact with online platforms. Vice President Vera Jourova last Friday met the representatives of Google, Facebook, Twitter, Microsoft, Mozilla, again, to receive an update on their actions. All these platforms are signatories of the Code of Practice on Disinformation. The Vice President reported the approach of the platforms, which is focusing on facilitating access to authoritative information and sources. This is, for example, the WHO or national authorities, while demoting or removing harmful content. Ms. Jourova also urged the companies to share relevant data with research and fact-checking community and researchers, as well as to work together with authorities in the member states and also closer with the Commission to fully enforce the new policies and to offer more evidence that the measures are working. The Commission will continue to monitor this very closely. In parallel, the European External Action Service has been working on analyzing and exposing the spread of disinformation around the coronavirus outbreak from external sources and actors. The insights are shared online on the EU versus Disinfo website, and my colleague Peter had the opportunity to explain this in detail last week. It is important that all actors are engaged in ensuring the dissemination of reliable information about the coronavirus pandemic. The Commission, for its part, has already, since the beginning of the crisis, launched a coronavirus response website. And today we launched a dedicated section on fighting disinformation on that website, which is behind me indeed. So there we provide materials for myth-busting and fact-checking. And more information is also available in our daily news.
Okay, thank you, Johannes. We have two last questions. The first for Sonia from Lily again, from Politico. Last week, speaking to the Parliament's plenary session, Vice President Šefčovič shared some estimates about how many masks, respirators, and ventilators will be needed weekly over the next 3 months. He said these numbers were shared at the college meeting. Could you please tell us more about these estimates and how they were developed?
Many thanks for your question, Lily. The Commission has been mapping out the production supplies in critical medical equipment over the last weeks. In particular, we are focused on masks and ventilators, of course, and the estimates of the production capacities of traditional industry, which were shared during the college meeting last week, represent only a sample of companies and which were surveyed some weeks ago. Since then, traditional industry has revamped its production, also through the help of the Commission and assistance. And new industries are also involving themselves in the retooling of facilities in order to start producing such vital medical equipment. Since then, we have also been opening, together with member states, new channels for imports of this vital medical equipment from third countries, and the Commission has organized several tenders of joint procurement. So we are putting really a lot of collective effort to make sure that there is no shortage of supply of those important medical equipment. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. Last question for today, which is for Stefan. From Philippe Sor, Evangelischer Pressedienst. Should member states which are not yet massively affected take over patients from severely affected countries, such as Italy and Spain? And secondly, should less affected countries send more medics to heavily affected countries?
Thank you very much, Philip. As Commissioner Kyriakides has stated, this is a critical time for solidarity and cooperation. The Commission is really doing everything it can to get more help to Spain and Italy. This is for the Commission a top priority. Without solidarity or Europe-wide solutions, we cannot effectively deal with this public health emergency. And we do see a lot of solidarity. France and Germany, for instance, have sent masks to Italy. Austria is going to do the same. Germany has offered to welcome patients from regions in France and Italy where hospitals are currently overwhelmed. Luxembourg is going to provide support. There's quite a lot of examples of solidarity between the member states. Now, medical assistance between these member states is obviously something that the Commission encourages and supports, and the Commission is now in the process of exploring possible guidance to support such cooperation. Thank you.
All right, and we are showing on screen and will be disseminating information that we collect on these signs, concrete signs and deliverables in terms of solidarity between member states. Let's not forget the European Union is the institutions, but it's also all those mechanisms that have been developed over decades that allow member states to communicate between themselves and help each other also bilaterally. Let me remind you that we have very regular conferences, teleconferences between the ministers, for example, in the health area, for example, in the home affairs area, for example, in the transport area. And this is all conducive to member states understanding the needs of neighboring countries and others across Europe, and therefore then proposing practical solutions. So opposing, as I sometimes see on my Twitter feed, on the one hand, the action of the European Union institutions, and on the other of member states, does not make sense. We're all one big family in this respect, and it's the efforts of the individual members and also of the institutions which make up our collective response. And that's how we will get out of this crisis together. Thank you very much. À demain.